She's April.
And she's Molly.
And we are
the Book Besties. And because I'm obsessed with Leslie Knope and literally have a Hope with Knope poster hanging up in my office, I mean, I would really like to meet you. So.
New goal, be someone Amy Poehler calls for a walk and talk.
I need Leslie Knope to tell me that I am a beautiful tropical starfish.
I'm still in the preface.
Molly, we're at 52 minutes already.
Whoo! Hey, lady.
Hi. It's been a while.
My hair's clean. Can you see? Like, I got a shower? I got a shower.
I'm so happy for you.
So, besties, it's been 2 weeks since April and I have seen each other. Because...
Which is not normal for us.
Nope. So, the Saturday we were due to record last week, my hot water heater pretty much exploded.
Yeah.
Rained through my eldest daughter's bedroom into the master bedroom. So, yeah. Fuck that shit. So we had to call Service Pro, and they cut a big hole in Piper's closet because it rained straight through her closet.
Oh, man. Is your water heater, like, on the second floor?
It's in the attic.
Oh. So, like, I was trying to figure out how it rained in Piper's room and then, like, through your ceiling, and I was telling Tom, he's like, why do they have their water heater on the second floor? I was like, I don't know. Ours is in the garage.
I know. It's in the attic. So it's in the attic, and like it's adjacent to Piper's. It's like the overflow is right next to her closet, so it just kind of came down through. But
Piper.
The only thing the girls lost, they like to make movies, right? Mm-hmm. They record their own little shorts and stuff, and
that's adorable.
They lost their camera, which was upsetting. Which the insurance will cover. But the thing they were really most upset about is they had a notebook full of scripts they had written together.
Oh, no.
That was like, sad. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it hurts because, like, clothes can be replaced. The camera can be replaced. That can't. And the memory of them working on that can't.
And, like, as a mom, like, that's something I'd want to, like, keep, too.
Right. You know? And it was joy for them during the pandemic.
Yeah.
It was joy for them during the pandemic.
I'm sorry, Biggs girls.
It's dried out now. Matt's uncle, who is a retired plumber, used his connections and helped us get a hot water heater at cost.
Oh, that's good.
And helped Matt install it. And now we have hot water. We just are waiting for insurance so we can replace the holes in our ceiling and Piper's ceiling.
Oh.
So,
well, I'm glad you have hot water.
Same. I missed hot water. You don't know how much shit relies on hot water until you need it.
Yeah, I got quite a few text messages from Molly in our group chat with our friend Nurse Katie that were like panicked, and I feel so bad, and I'm glad you're okay. And
me too.
Like, if you're joining us for the first time, or you're like just finding us and you didn't listen to our intro episode, Molly and I don't even live in the same city, but we don't live in the same state. We live across the country from each other. So there wasn't anything I could do. Like, I could be like, you could come shower at my house if you get on a plane and fly 6 hours here. Like, there's nothing I could do. It sucked.
It was good that you were an ear, though, because you and Katie were a good sounding board, because my mother pretty much told me to suck it up. My sister was out of town because she was doing her things. So my sympathetic ears were you guys. You guys are always my sympathetic ears because you guys love me dearly.
Well, that's what we do. And I just have to say, I love that we still have this group chat going with Nurse Katie.
Nurse Katie? She's fantastic. I love Nurse Katie.
That started because she's been a friend of mine since middle school, and I just wanted to have her on the podcast and just introduced you guys, and now you guys are friends.
Right. It is. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. So, hey, you want to talk about our book this week?
Yes, please.
Yes, please, by Amy Poehler.
I thought it was funny.
I'm very excited to have you host. I hosted last week, and
are you sure about that?
Oh, fuck me, Molly. Gosh.
Did you see how many pages of notes I had too?
Yes, I did. Just a lot of tabs and a lot of notes. Like, okay, I get it. Last week I was all tab happy with.
Well, also, I don't know. We say this all the time. April and I are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, it's true.
And this book definitely points that out.
Mm-hmm.
April is Leslie Knope.
I'm Leslie Knope.
And I'm Amy Poehler.
Yes. I am very much Leslie Knope. I actually just today finished watching the series all the way through again.
I love that show so damn much.
I have seen Parks and Rec all the way through. I mean, I don't even know how many times now. It's at least 6 or 7 times.
Yes.
It's my favorite show. I've gone through all these different phases of, like, Friends was my favorite show when I was younger. And I still very much like Friends, but How I Met Your Mother then became my favorite show because I was the same age as the characters in the show. And so I related to their journey more than, like, Friends because I was 12 when Friends started. So it wasn't
we were young.
Right. But since finding Parks and Rec, it is my favorite show. And it's one that, like, I rewatch all the time. If I'm having a really, like, bummer day, I want to put on the episode The Littlest Park, which is when Ben and Leslie get back together officially and decide to make it real. And it's my favorite episode of the show. But I love Leslie Knope. I, too, think in binders and Post-it notes and planners. And one of her favorite things is jamming on her planner. That's me, too. It's all my anxiety, like, loves to live in those spaces. The very funny thing is, if you know anything about Parks and Rec, the show talks about the relationship between the Parks and Rec department and the library department and how they, like, hate each other. I can confirm that is a real issue in city government. The library department and the Parks and Rec department do not like each other at all. So I can confirm that's real. But I will tell you that almost every person I've met that works in Parks and Rec is not like Leslie, but every person I've met that works in libraries is like Leslie. So, anyway, I read this book because I like Parks and Rec.
I read it because I like her writing on SNL and Parks and Rec and her movies, and I love her dynamic with Tina Fey and Seth Meyers.
Yeah, so see, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I did not like all of the movies that she has done.
Oh, really?
Like, I thought Baby Mama was really dumb. I really didn't like that at all. I feel like the early parts of her career, well, actually, this isn't really the early parts of her career. I would say the midpoint of her career.
Right, because she was A Bright Citizen Brigade, too, which I watched that as a kid. I used to watch that show on Comedy Central at night when I was, like, a teen and a tween.
Where I had never even heard of that until I read this book. But
really?
Yeah, because, like, you and I don't follow comedy the same way. Like, you know, we have different, and this goes back to, again, you being more like Amy and me being more like Leslie. Yes. So I feel like her midpoint career where she was doing things like Baby Mama and was on SNL, I thought she was great on SNL doing Weekend Update with Tina Fey. I loved that. And when she did it with Seth Meyers, I loved that. Didn't like Baby Mama. I love Mean Girls. Love that movie.
Mean Girls is good.
Still one of my favorites. Shout out to my girl Megan because we like
her new movie's really great too. The one on Netflix.
The one where Wine Country.
No, the newer one. The one where she's the mom of the teen who's like rebelling in high school. I'll put it in the notes.
I have not seen this movie.
Oh, it's so good.
But I thought Wine Country was really good. And I love watching the show Making It. Yeah. With her and Nick Offerman.
I love that dynamic.
I'm a crafter, and so I just love that show. But I do feel
Moxie. The movie's called Moxie.
Okay, I don't know that one.
It's based off a book, which we'll probably have to do now.
Well, I don't know that one, but I feel like on Making It, she is more the character of Leslie Knope than she is Amy Poehler.
And I think he plays more. Nick Offerman's not playing Nick Offerman. He's playing a character off Ron Swanson.
I don't agree with that. I think he's playing a character based off of Nick Offerman.
It's they're dynamic. I think they realize that they have this great dynamic, right? When it comes to them playing these caricatures.
Yeah.
So, let's get into a synopsis of the book.
Yeah. Can I just say real quick?
Sure.
I do feel a little weird about us doing this book on the podcast.
Yeah, I actually have a couple notes about that.
Okay. Maybe I should hold my thought, or you want me to...
Let's hold your thought.
I'll hold my thought. Okay. We'll circle back.
All
right, give us the synopsis.
Synopsis. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, so Amy Poehler's autobiography, Yes Please, covers a good percentage of her life, from childhood to SNL, movies, her divorce and children, and everything in between. Do you think I missed anything there? Was that a good...
No, I think that's good. I mean, it's an autobiography. It's a memoir. So I mean,
before we get into questions, I want to read the back of the book, like the very back.
I can't see all of the back of the book because I've got a library copy that's covered.
My library copy doesn't cover there. It covers in the front. Okay, so by purchasing Yes Please by Amy Poehler, you commit to the following. As reader of Yes Please, I hereby swear to purchase book and read it. Book may be read on subway, airplane, or elliptical machine. Book shall not be read while driving, giving birth, or walking near mall water fountains. All parties agree to discuss books with family and friends and purchase multiple copies if so inclined. Editors would like to take the moment to point out that books are great gifts, especially around the truly magical holiday season. Also, don't forget summer, or any months ending in Y, H, L, E, T, or R. Book may also be used as a coaster for morning coffee or easy way to prop up a bedside alarm clock. Please approach Yes Please with an open mind and low expectations of gossip. Lines from books may be quoted in casual conversations after permission is received from author in writing. This is in really small print, by the way. Author in writing 4 to 6 months after said request is processed. Requests to quote lines can be sent to Yes Please. Quotes requests 12342 Corporation Boulevard A, Suite XV, America. The author would like to thank you from the bottom of her heart for buying this book so she can continue to buy fancy washcloths. The publisher would like to thank you. Yes, please. Have courage. I'm getting really small. Take risks. Go now, why now? Who cares? Yes, yes, yes. That hurt my eyes. I should have had my glasses.
Wow. Yeah. So we both are showing the physical copy, but it's worth noting that we both read this as an audiobook, and this was my second read. Was it your second?
It's my second read. I kind of did side by side. I listened to the audiobook because, and that's actually my first note. The amount of talent that was a part of this audiobook. Oh, excuse me. The amount of talent a part of this audiobook is mind-blowing. Amy Poehler herself is talent. Then she recruited Carol Burnett, Seth Meyers, Mike Schur, her mom and her dad, which Elaine and William Poehler, Patrick motherfucking Stewart, and fucking Kathleen Turner.
Right.
And so, Kathleen Turner and Patrick Stewart read the little in-between portions.
Yes.
Like, they split it back and forth, which is fantastic.
And Kathleen Turner also is the monster in her head.
Yes.
When she's having negative
which
thoughts.
Is fantastic.
I love that the audiobook was full cast, that she brought in people who wrote parts of her book to tell parts of her book, and then just brought in people that she thought was cool as shit. And,
right. And the fact that she's like, you know what, Kathleen Turner, like, she feels like her voice sounds like Kathleen Turner. And I mean, I love it. Kathleen Turner's voice is raspy and beautiful and deep. And you're like, yeah.
I can't think of her and not think of her role as Chandler's dad.
mom. Yeah, dad. Yeah, dad.
Oh, man.
So
let's go ahead.
Amy shares a great deal about her life with us in this book. Do you think books like this give us, non-celebrities, a feeling like we're entitled to this information?
I mean, Amy actually talks about this in the book.
She sure does.
How she feels that she is entitled to information of all the celebrities.
She's a snoop.
Well, she is. I don't know that we are necessarily entitled to that information. I think that there is a certain... you are relinquishing some privacy when you step into the limelight. And when...
Of course.
When people like hack your phone and steal like naked photos of you, no, no, that's not okay.
No.
When they're stalking you and you've got your kids with you, also not okay. That's not okay.
Facts.
But there are certain aspects of the life of a celebrity that are going to be public, and that comes with being a celebrity. And if you don't like it, then you probably shouldn't pick that career path.
Yes.
I like when celebrities write memoirs. I like reading memoirs. It lets me know more about the person's life. I never read them about people I don't care about, like people that read autobiographies just because they like autobiographies. That's not my thing.
Right.
I've read a few of them, and I know you want to talk about that later. I've read a few celebrity memoirs, and I like that inside look at them. Amy's memoir, autobiography, whatever you want to call it, was different for me because I learned things about her that kind of made me be like, oh, maybe I wouldn't be friends with her in person.
I don't know. You like me?
I mean, that's debatable. No, I'm just kidding.
You bitch.
But I mean, I want to be friends with Leslie Knope, you know? And Amy Poehler
I think there's a part of Leslie Knope in Amy.
I don't know. I think the go-getter side, the kind of person that's driven, that's what this book is about.
The one that wants to take
She is
care
a do-gooder. She is a do-gooder, yeah. But like, she's also from like a really gritty comedy world, and she's the only woman in her, like, in the Upright Citizens Brigade. She's the only woman, and the men that she hangs out with, she's pretty vulgar. And I guess when I listened to this the first time, I loved it because I loved hearing her, and she made me laugh and she made me cry.
Right.
But I also learned things about her that I was like, I really didn't need to know that about her. You know?
Really? Like what?
I mean, I didn't need to know that she's stoned all the time. I didn't need to know that she was like, you know,
sexually promiscuous.
Yeah, I don't need to know that part of her life.
I feel like that made her more relatable.
Well, maybe to you, but not to me. And she also talks about in here her boyfriend at the time that she wrote the book.
Nicola.
And anytime a celebrity writes a memoir and they talk about their boyfriend, I'm always kind of like, do you really want to put that in there? And then, of course, she and Nick Kroll aren't together anymore. No. So I think that's weird. I mean,
it is. I feel like modern day, we automatically feel like, as non-celebrities in general, we have a right to their lives. I mean, the first thing we do in the morning is most people click on Facebook, and they're scrolling through, and there's like, oh, so-and-so died, so-and-so is rehab. And we're like, yes, give us the information, right?
I feel like there was a time in my life that I liked that, and I used to be like...
It feels dirty now.
It does. I used to read Perez Hilton's blog.
I grew up, my grandmother used to, the National Enquirer and Star, those paper magazines, not even magazines, whatever, they're small, thin papers. Yeah. I remember my grandmother buying them and reading them.
Well, I mean, I used to follow Perez Hilton's blog, and that's all celebrity garbage, and it's gossip, and I used to like that a lot. And when I was in my 20s, and now, like, Molly, I'm going to be 40 in a month. I don't care about people's, like, personal lives if I don't know you. Like, I don't want to invest in people's lives if I don't know them. Well, now, but I do like reading. I do like reading memoirs. I just think that there's a certain aspect of it. I don't need you to put that out there.
I think what it is as we get more mature, we get more empathetic. And thinking about it from their point of view makes us more empathetic. Like, watching celebrities try to guard their children's faces, you're like, those MFing photogs. You know what I mean?
But I never liked it when paparazzi went after kids. I never liked that.
Like, it's upsetting.
That's not okay. And I'm like, I'm almost the age that what she wrote this book. Mm-hmm. So I should be, it's just that I don't know. I feel weird us talking about this, Molly, because like it's not just evaluating the book; it's evaluating her life.
Amy,
who are we to sit here and judge Amy Poehler? Like we're not.
Okay, so let's say this: we're not judging Amy. We're gonna judge the context of this book.
Yeah,
because
and I do think that the kind of comedy world that she comes from, the comedy that she does, that I didn't know that she did, comes with a shock value.
Yes.
And so I think some of the things,
yes.
So I think some of the things in this book were because that's the comedy she runs with. And I guess if you were reading this book because you were a fan of like Upright Citizens Brigade, or you were a comedy fan, or you wanted to read what to do to break into SNL, like that wouldn't bother you. But like me, as somebody that just likes her because she's
Leslie Knope, yeah.
Like it was things I just didn't need to know about her. But overall, I really like this book. And
what was your Goodread rating?
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to look that up. I'll look it up real quick. I really like this book. I loved the audiobook. I loved hearing her read it to me. Like to me, that was like the best part.
It was like a conversation with a friend, honestly.
It was. And the chapter on her sons, I was driving on my way to work the first time I listened to it and cried.
Every time I hear it. So do you feel like you...
I gave it 5 stars.
Okay.
And as we all have established, April does not hand out 5 stars regularly.
So we're both very aware of her from this book. Do you feel like your opinion about her has changed?
In some ways, yes, because I'm sorry to jump ahead because I know you have a question about this later, and I apologize, but my opinion of her has changed in some ways because some of the men that she associates with.
Okay, Louis C.K., I want to talk about this, actually.
Yeah, so I understand that she and Louis C.K. have been doing comedy together for a long time. He's not really a part of the Upright Citizens Brigade, but he's like a part of that world. Right. They started together in Chicago, and he was even on Parks and Rec. But since the Me Too movement, we've learned that Louis C.K. is not a good guy. And so to me, that sort of made me go... Of course, she wrote this book before that came out. So I'm not saying she should retract what she says about him in the book, but I do feel like how did she not know? And I'm not blaming her. I'm not blaming her.
So
I'm not holding her responsible for his actions. I had a lot of
feelings about this, especially we'll get into it in a couple pages of my notes.
We're no way going to be able to finish all your notes, Molly. We're 20 minutes in. 20 motherfucking minutes in.
I have a lot of feelings about this because she keeps mentioning him. So I went and looked I Googled it, right? To see if she had made a statement or anything. She has stayed completely silent.
See, I mean,
that upset me a lot.
It's not her duty to...
But
it's not her duty.
She is talking so highly about him in 2018. Yeah. Or what is this? What year was this?
Around then, and that's also when when Me Too happened. 2014.
So this is 2014, and then 17, 18, Me Too started,
right?
And all those things about Louis C came out, and she said nothing. And I don't. It just hurt my heart a little bit because the women that were speaking out were other female comedians in the same circuit.
Same circle. Yes. And I want to be clear. I want to be clear. I'm not blaming Amy Poehler for
I don't blame Amy at all.
Louis C.K. And I'm not holding her responsible for the things that he did or not reporting it or what have you. She maybe didn't know. Let's give her that. Maybe she didn't know. But at least she could stand up and say, I do not approve of this. And I'm going to distance myself. I'm going to distance myself from him because I stand with other women in comedy.
What happens in silence in these kind of situations is it is taken as approval. It is taken as support nowadays.
Right.
And maybe she called Louis and he was like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? We don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Right.
Maybe she called Sarah Silverman and apologized. We have no idea.
Right.
All I'm saying publicly as a woman who's been through all the things and have seen things and dealt with the things, it made me feel yucky.
Well, and she does address this side of Hollywood in her book. Right. She talks about somebody, an inappropriate producer at a show, and how that uncomfortable that made her feel. And she addresses men in Hollywood and says, you don't have the right to do these things. Okay, great. We know that you feel that way. So now come out and say, I'm distancing myself from this. Right. And at this point, I feel like it's probably too late. Like, it's been, 4 years?
4 years. But it's just, I don't know. Anyways.
It bothers me.
It bothers me as well. I'm still in the preface. In the preface, she's mentioned Girl Walks into a Bar by Rachel Dratch, Bedwetter by Sarah Silverman, Everyone's Hanging Out Without Me by Mindy Kaling, Not That Kind of Girl, a Young Woman Telling What She Can Learn by Lena Dunham, and a couple more. Bossy Pants.
Yeah.
Have you read any of these?
I have read Is Everyone Hanging Out Without Me by Mindy Kaling.
I want to read that. That's on my TBR.
It's really funny. And I didn't know her from The Office because I've seen The Office now, but surprisingly,
again, another excellent writer.
Yeah, she's an excellent writer, right? Surprisingly, the reason I didn't try Parks and Rec when it was on the air, when I first started watching it, it was airing its last season, was because I am not a fan of the documentary style. So I hated The Office. So I watched The Office all the way through with husband, and he thought it was very funny. I can't stand Michael Scott. There's no way I could ever work for somebody like him. I don't understand how he had a job and how he kept employees. Awful. But anyway, I knew
you've never been in the military, because there are officers that are
yes, but
deals that are fucking Michael Scott's still active duty right now. I have worked for Michael Scott's. And you know who you fucking are. I'm looking at you. You know who you fucking are. I covered your ass.
Well,
moving on.
I knew Mindy Kaling from the Mindy Project. She's very funny.
Which was a good show. And so she's a great writer.
Yeah.
So, Amy lists 3 things she feels as a kid they were all worried about. Lice, scoliosis, and nuclear war. I feel like 2 of these things are generational because of when she grew up. What would your list look like from that time frame?
Well, I mean, probably lice would be on there. I had really long hair, and I did get lice a lot.
Lice.
Lice is attracted to healthy hair, but it doesn't make you feel
mono,
good when you get it.
For some reason, for me, was a big one I was scared
not
of.
Mono, because I wasn't making out with random people. Molly, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Well, I wasn't making out with people, but I feel like we talked about it way more than we should have as kids. We were more concerned about mono.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say lice would be up there. They did do the scoliosis test every year, probably climbing the fucking rope in gym. I never accomplished that.
We didn't ever have to do that.
Never got it. Nuclear war was definitely not one of them because I grew up in the 80s.
Right.
But, so I guess probably lice and scoliosis and climbing the rope in gym.
Yeah. My fingers getting rolled over in scooter games was always a big worry for
you know
me.
what else? The fucking skip it hitting your ankle.
Oh,
that thing hurt.
I was a klutz, and I was a chatty kid, so people liked to pick on me. Bullies were a big problem for me. So,
I mean, really, my biggest worries were, real problems, and these aren't, I mean, I'm not trying to downplay lice or nuclear war, because obviously those are big things. But, I had, my parents were the first parents to divorce in my entire school when I was in 3rd grade. So it was, I had a lot of childhood trauma from that. And I have an anxiety disorder. And the first time that I actually had an anxiety attack that I can remember, I was 9 years old. Mm-hmm. I didn't really know that that's what it was when I had it. But that's what it was. And I because I have an anxiety disorder and I'm also gifted, quote unquote, I had a really hard time because I would be obsessive about my grades. Yeah. So that's really where...
It was a thing you could control.
Yes.
It was a thing you could
For me,
control.
that's what I worried about. Yeah, if I wasn't getting straight A's, and I'm really still struggling with that now because my son is in 3rd grade, the first year of grades, and he's getting 2 B's on his first report card. I don't see them turning into A's. Like one's at an 89%, so she could move it to an A. And I'm really trying not to make him feel like he did a bad thing because this is the first time he's ever had grades, and he's in gifted math, and he's doing
and B's great.
Yeah, but I didn't even have a B until I was in 9th grade. So
coming from a kid who barely graduated.
Right. I know. I mean, I never got anything lower than a C my entire life. So
that's awesome for you. That's awesome for you.
Anyway, sorry, that was a sidetrack.
So there's a line in the book. Once you move from shortstop to second base, you might want to start making other plans. This had me laughing out loud because while I wasn't in softball, I was in field hockey. And I went from being on field to on the bench real fast. And you're like, oh, this is not my thing anymore. And it really, as a kid, it really makes you second guess everything you thought you were in that moment.
Well, I just feel like that's one of the beauties of Amy's writing. It's relatable, right? So we maybe didn't, I was a softball player, and, I got moved from first base to right field my senior year.
Ooh.
That was disappointing. But I still was
disappointing.
I still had the highest batting average on my team. So I was playing every game because I was a beast.
You like the hair dye?
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I feel like that's the thing about her writing. It's relatable.
Carol Burnett is obviously Amy's idol and role model when it comes to comedy. Yes. Do you think she'll be held as high as Carol Burnett one day?
I really don't.
I don't either.
I think the reason is because the comedy world is much more inclusive than it used to be, and Carol Burnett and Lucille Ball, they were Mary Tyler Moore, Betty White. They were trailblazers in the young...
All hail Betty White, man.
In female comedians. She's turning 100 this year, I think.
Fuck! Yes, she is.
I think
that woman amazing. Is going to live forever.
Molly, I really hope you're right.
I can't take another tragedy, honestly.
I just think Amy Poehler is great, but she's also great in a time that we have a lot of women who are great, which is awesome. That's awesome.
Right. If anybody in her generation, not to take away from Amy, I think people are going to look at Tina Fey that way.
Yes, I think you're right, because I think Tina's got a more rounded career, but I would say of that generation of comedians who have been on SNL, Maya Rudolph. That would be who I would pick.
Yes. Maya is very versatile. Fluid with her. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I've seen movies where she's been serious too, and I'm like, she brings this finesse of comedy to the serious roles. Where I
very talented.
Where I think Amy is more slapsticky. Like she's a bit over the top. But I mean, even the way she played Leslie Knope is over the top. You know,
right?
So yeah, that's how I feel about that.
When we start the chapter, Plain Girl versus the Demon, Amy starts spiraling, and I feel like this is all of us. When we get to start internalizing how we hate ourselves. Mm-hmm. Did you find that relatable, or do you think she's just being 100%. A whiny celebrity?
I think she's very relatable. I think it's interesting because this is one of the things I was thinking about while I was reading that chapter. Mm-hmm. If you go back and look at Amy's appearance, I don't want to judge a woman for the way that she looks, but I want to talk about her appearance and how it's evolved. Mm-hmm. What typically is happening in Hollywood is women stop being cast in roles when they get older.
Right.
Because they're no longer attractive, quote unquote. But men keep this attractiveness and they keep getting cast in things.
Fact.
I feel like Amy Poehler has become more beautiful as she's aged.
I think so too.
Like, I think young Amy that was in Deuce Bigalow is not as pretty as she is now.
Well, she says in the book that, what the heck is his name over at SNL? The creator, major producer.
Lauren Michaels?
Lauren paid for her to get her teeth fixed.
Yeah. But like, I don't think that's what did it. I think she's just aged really beautifully.
She has aged well. I'm just saying it just helped the process probably. Well, there was
actually, if you look at the beginning seasons of Parks and Rec, which I know she was pregnant the first season and we all feel like shit. They talk about us glowing, but let's be honest, we were
sweaty.
Right. Like Phoebe says, it's sweat. Like, she actually gets more beautiful as the series goes on. I don't think it was something they were doing. I think that's just how she's aging, which props to her. Kudos. I am not aging well. I am not aging well.
Same girl. She has a line in the book that says, "Decide your currency." Amy says this as she explains she knew she would never be the pretty girl, and have you thought of your life in this way? Because this was new to me. I never thought about deciding that line, decide your currency, figure out what you're good at and hustle it.
Yeah. I don't know that I like that. Also, I had take issue with that because I think she is pretty and she's also blonde and a woman, and that comes with some advantages.
Correct. And she's skinny. She's a tiny woman.
She's tiny. To me, that whole find your currency thing, that might work if you want to go into show business and you have to find like where your niche is. Like she found comedy. For me, that doesn't, because to me, that's like just find your way that you can infiltrate the cool crowd, which I'm never going to be able to do that. Like I'm not.
Well, you're talking about we are the cool crowd,
Molly. We literally run a podcast talking about books that we didn't write, that someone else wrote.
I mean, we can talk about my books. It just won't be as fun.
Okay, well, I think that we're cool, but we're cool that we're almost 40 cool. But my currency, if I had to choose it, would always be to be the smart one. And I mean, that sounds braggy, but it's true. I'm really smart.
Told us the other day, it's not bragging if it's true.
Yeah, well, I am really smart.
And you know, but advice from a 12-year-old is truthful advice because they have no reason to lie.
They have no filter. I mean, so for me, that would always be like where I'm supposed to be. And I guess that works for me because I'm a librarian, so being the smart one makes sense. But I don't know. If you want to be in showbiz, I think you need to decide what you're going to be good at. Are you going to be good at being the leading lady because you have the face? Are you going to be good at comedy because you just are naturally funny? I don't have to choose that because I'm a librarian.
I felt this as a writer. I was like, oh.
That makes sense in that. Yeah.
Pick a lane, stick to it, figure it out. Get your shit together. And you know what? I started writing after this book. And I haven't written in a year. Happy. I haven't written in a fucking year. So
I'm really glad you're writing again. That makes me happy.
Me too. It's going to be freaking hilarious, but that's beside the point. Neither here nor there. Another good one-liner I felt, good for her, not for me. When she was talking about being at SNL and she was getting prepared for her first birth, and Maya's telling her about this water birth and how she had it at home, and she's like,
right. Yeah.
Fuck that shit.
Not for me. I literally read an article today about a woman who gave birth in like a water birth and then left the placenta attached to her son until it just fell off naturally in 6 days.
No.
And to preserve the placenta while it was still attached so it could continue to nourish her child, she like basically marinated it with herbs. I don't know.
Okay, let's say it together. Good for her.
Good for her. Not for me. I almost sent that to you and Katie. Like, what the actual fuck?
Katie.
And they named it. The placenta's name is Alice. I know.
Good for you. Not for me. The Sarah Palin rap, which I'm going to put in the link because this is so funny.
I love that we both, in our notes for this episode, put that link. I love that we were both like, we need to go watch the Sarah Palin rap. I actually remember seeing it.
I do too. I remember seeing it live.
I was watching SNL at the time.
She was so tiny, and she had that big old belly.
Right.
It was. I loved her and Seth Meyers. I still like their dynamic. I hope they write together one day.
They're great. I was watching SNL at that time because I was in my 20s, and so I could be up late on a Saturday, but
same, boo.
I can't do that anymore. But
well, I mean, I didn't have a tiny human.
They were just doing such really creative things that election year, and I just thought that was really great.
That will always be my favorite time frame of SNL. When Amy and Seth and Jimmy Fallon were on, and I think that'll be our generation of SNL with the cheerleading.
It will be for it will be for when I was old enough to really watch SNL, but in college, Comedy Central used to play classic SNL, and when Chris Farley was on there,
I loved him, and Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy. Oh, those are good years too.
Not Eddie Murphy.
He was on there for a little bit.
Well, that's not who I was thinking of, though. Oh my gosh, who am I thinking of?
Chris Rock? He was on there for a little bit, too.
Chris Rock. Yeah, Chris Rock, Chris Farley, they were all on there. And that was, to me, those were the years.
Yeah.
Those were the years I really liked. That was also when Will Ferrell started as well. And
but the whole story with Dr. G and the birth of her eldest child had me in tears. Then John Hamm gets on and tells her that she cannot ruin this for her because it's kind of a big deal. I was rolling laughing.
Yeah. Me too. I kind of wonder how many of these stories are real and how many of them are just funny.
I feel like I've seen enough of John Hamm IRL, like on a curated IRL when it comes to like SNL and talk shows and that kind of thing. And I feel like based off his personality, this is a very much John Hamm thing to be like, hey, I know you're going through it, but fucking suck it up. You know, like it definitely feels on brand. But I loved her. It was more of how writing can take you from being in tears to laughing hysterically in moments is amazing.
Yeah, but pregnancy can do that in general.
True. So do you want to talk about Hurricane Mary?
So I think we should. This is like the one chapter that Amy like really apologizes for something that she did. And so the story is that there was a skit, Hurricane Mary, that she did on she did it on SNL as part of, and I actually remember seeing this
I do too. I went looking for it. SNL has taken it offline.
Well, I think that's probably for the best. Yes. Amy's probably pushed for that to be the case.
Yes.
So she portrays Dakota Fanning.
Right.
And she's doing a talk show, and she didn't write it, and she didn't know that the doll that she
was going to be so offensive either.
Right. And that doll was actually based on a real person. And it's a woman who is a disabled woman, and at the time was a girl.
Sisters. Wasn't it Sisters?
Yes, it's Sisters. And basically, Amy needed to apologize. And when she was called out on it, she waited years to apologize, and it became too long. But I did some research on just to see if they had patched up at all, because we do get Amy's apology to the young woman. We get her response back.
Jones helping her, and it's
and we get the response back. But I did some research, and the two of them actually do some work together on Amy Poehler's Smart Girls.
Yes.
And the woman's name escapes me right now, but we'll put that. I want to put that article where they've patched things up in the description. But she's a political activist and has campaigned on several campaigns with people supporting disability rights, and it's pretty cool. And I like that she and Amy are cool with each other. And actually, the woman's Twitter picture, like her profile picture, is her and Amy Poehler.
That's beautiful.
So
I like how honest she was about it. I feel like we've all put ourselves in a situation where we regretted what we've said. Well, and not always rose to the occasion when we should have, you know?
Well, and that's the beauty of memoirs, right? You get to tell the story that you want to tell and don't tell the parts you don't. She did not have to include that vulnerability. No. She didn't have to include that story.
You know what? And she admits in the book even how shitty it makes her look.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't cool. And even though she didn't write it, and even though she didn't know,
it was
it wasn't cool.
So while she doesn't go into detail about her divorce, she is pretty honest about how she feels about the situation and pretty candid about how she dealt with it. Mm-hmm. What did you think about this? The fact that we knew she was married to Will Arnett. And, I mean, her divorce was all over the tabloids. But... yeah.
I mean, they seem like they were a good couple. I like what she says, that she doesn't consider 10 years together to be a failure.
No.
She had 10 years of a successful marriage.
I agree. And, I've heard him on Smartless. And I've heard her... She's been on Armchair Expert, Dax Shepard's podcast. On Smartless, he will talk about Amy in such beautiful ways. He is very kind about her. They have a good relationship.
I mean, that's good because they have kids together.
Based off his analysis. And then when she was on Armchair, she's really good friends with Dax Shepard. I had no idea. Like, because
he was on Parks and Rec for an episode.
And he was on Baby Mama too.
Oh, I don't remember that, but Kristen Bell, his wife, was on several episodes of Parks and Rec. So
yeah. But she was I will actually, if you like Amy Poehler at all, and you've never listened to Armchair, that's a good episode just to go listen to her talk, because she's hilarious. But she's I wouldn't say she wasn't direct about it, but she was honest about how her and Will are doing and how, like, they're just getting along, you know?
Yeah. I think she had every right to not include any of that, but I think she probably got pressure from her publishers to include something, because this is what people are going to want to know about.
Right.
Because I think the book came out shortly after
the divorce. Yeah.
The divorce. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm happy that they're getting along, because most people that get divorced don't. And, like, you got kids together. Also, they run in the same circles. Like, the comedy world is not really that big.
No. And, I mean, they're the same generation of comedians.
And they're all the comedy world is also very incestuous. So, yeah.
Yes, very much so. So, as we get further into the book, she goes diving back into her childhood. We get to the chapter, The Russians Are Coming. This whole chapter is about her and her childhood imagination. Really makes me feel connected to her. Did you have a similar experience growing up?
No, I mean, I wasn't, like, pretending to be some secret spy, if that's what you mean. No, my imagination was more dreaming of escaping, like, my actual life. Like, how the fuck am I going to get out of this small ass town in Ohio and not be in this town anymore? And
that's how I escaped, was going into the woods, pretending I wasn't in the place I was, and I was a Native American, and I was and my tribe had left me, and I was out there trying to figure out how to build a shelter and make a fire and find food, and I would just put myself in
that seems like a lot of work. I just was reading books.
It was easier to be in my brain than to be in the house.
Well, yeah, I wasn't reading the books in the house.
New goal. Be someone Amy Poehler calls for a walk and talk.
I think that's a good goal for you to have.
I feel like she'd have a lot of great advice about writing.
I would love to have a conversation with her. But I don't know.
You're gonna ask her, though, to be in character the whole time.
Hi, I know that you're not actually Leslie Knope. I know that was a character. I know you're Amy Poehler. But could you just pretend to be Leslie? Because I need to chat with her for a second.
I need advice from Leslie Knope. Not Amy Poehler. Because
I need Leslie Knope to tell me. I need Leslie Knope to tell me that I am a beautiful tropical starfish,
and everything's gonna be okay.
Yes.
Well,
exactly.
Oh my.
Let's get some waffles and work it out.
She's going to make you watch Harry Potter and then tell you love it.
You make me watch Harry Potter.
The moment her childhood friend Mothers dies and she doesn't know what to do, I feel is very relatable.
I mean, I didn't have anybody when I was young that lost a mom, but I do feel like that if I were in that position, I wouldn't know how to do it.
I'm not going to mention her name because I don't know if she listens or not. In my childhood, a very close friend of mine, we were in 3rd or 4th grade. Her mother had died from cancer, and our whole class just kind of avoided her instead of talking to her because none of us knew what to do.
Yeah.
And it makes us shitty human beings. But you know who it's on? It was our parents, because our parents should have talked to us about it and told us what to do.
Being a parent is hard. How do you prepare? I mean, look, my son, his best friend from 2 years ago, his best friend from kindergarten and 1st grade, her mother died of a brain aneurysm right before 2nd grade started. Like a few weeks before. Having that conversation with him was not fun. I don't think anyone wants to have that conversation with their kid. He asked all the questions that I feel are age appropriate. Are you going to die, mommy? Who's going to be her mommy now? You know, what's going to happen to her? Like, it was an impossible conversation. But so I don't necessarily blame her parents for not really having that. How do you deal with this? Because like, how do you deal with it?
It was a different time too.
But this person was also my friend, and like we don't know that that's not the case for Amy's parents. How do we know that they weren't also
reeling
friends
through it? Yeah. Humping Justin Timberlake and her whole SNL chapter had me in tears. One, you can hear how much she loves her castmates and still does, and 2, she is really grateful for her time on the show.
Yeah, and I feel like SNL is what really launched her. Without SNL, she wouldn't have had really any of the movies beyond Deuce Bigalow, because Baby Mama, Mean Girls, they were all produced by Lorne Michaels and written by Tina Fey. I mean, she knew Tina from her time in Chicago, so maybe, but I think that's what really launched her career. And SNL does make a lot of people. Like, it really makes the careers of a lot of people. And I think she was on SNL at the time when there were a lot of women on SNL.
Yeah.
Her and Tina Fey and Maya Rudolph and Rachel Dratch. They were all, and Anna Gasteyer. Like, that was the years of women on that show. And like, it was definitely a good time.
And funny women.
Very funny
really
women.
Funny women.
And I don't think the cast has ever been swayed to the more women to men any other time of the show's history.
No.
It was a good time to be a woman in that comedy circle. I preferred the chapter in which she talked about her castmates from Parks and Rec.
Yes. Which I have a note about it. We're going to get there, I promise.
Molly, we're at 52 minutes already.
It's fine. We got this. I can talk fast, you know that.
Now we watch as Molly speeds up the process.
One of my favorite things about this book, one of the things in this book I did not expect was sex advice. Same? I did not expect to get sex advice from Amy Poehler when I opened this fucking book.
I don't know that I expected anything in particular. I just decided to read it because I wanted to listen to a memoir, and I love Parks and Rec, so that's why I picked it. It seems on brand for the kind of comedy that she's doing, but I didn't know she was doing that kind of comedy. I don't know.
While I am not a comedian, and in her world, being the only woman in a room has happened to me several times while I was in service. She hits the nail on the head when it comes to sharing, being a lucky girl. From personal experience, I cannot tell you the time I have looked up from my desk as being active duty and realized I am the only woman in a room.
Yeah.
While most of the people were not drunk in that room like it is in the comedy world, I have had sober men approach me the way men have approached her. I have had that situation where the producer comes up to her and is like looking for confirmation and wants her to just cater to whatever he wants, even though he's the one that fucked up. I have had that happen so many times. Yeah. And as women, I feel like this is such a relatable situation. It doesn't matter if you're in the military, if you're a lawyer, if you work in a school, if you work in an industry that is full of men, you are going to if you have tits, you're going to be looked at like you're supposed to be catering to them and helping them and making their life easier. And I really wish she would have had some advice about how to fix it other than saying no. Like,
well, I mean, obviously she didn't have that advice because she didn't say no herself. She ended up hugging that guy. Right. And she regrets it. She wishes she would have, told him, get the fuck out of my dressing room. But, yeah.
Yep. Mike Schur. I love Mike Schur. I didn't really know much about him until I heard him on Armchair Expert, which is a really good episode. But the way he edits her, did you see the way he edited it in here?
I did, yeah. He adds in like little notes about where,
right, like a true editor.
Right. And I like that he came on and read those parts and talked.
Yes. Here. Like, it's in red, and it's an editor or a teacher editing your work. It really
starts on page 246.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very cute. I like it. And I like that he came in and read those parts.
Yes.
I also like in that chapter, if you listen to the audiobook, she plays the audio
parts
clip
from the show. From Parks and Rec.
And when Ben proposes.
Right.
And I cried because I cry every time I watch that episode.
I cried too. And then I cried as she read each love letter to each of her castmates.
I know. I mean,
that was beautiful.
Beautiful.
My favorite, I think, is to Aubrey Plaza. When I'm tearing up now, after the divorce, and she had got off the plane from New York, Aubrey showed up at the airport to pick her up, and she was in like some weird costume, right?
Yes, she was. She dressed up as an alien and surprised her,
and came to the airport to pick her up, knowing that her friend was heartbroken.
And
I love that about her.
She describes her basically as being like soft on the inside but with a hard exterior, which is exactly how April Ludgate is described in the show.
Right.
I like that she included Rob Lowe and
Chris Pratt,
Rashida Jones, who were not on the whole series.
But Rashida and her have a great friendship outside of Parks and Rec now.
Yeah, they do. And I really love this Leslie Knope's name list where they went through all the possible.
I went on. That goes on.
I think Leslie Knope is like the perfect name for a character with such a can-do attitude. And I love that it has the silent K. Because
all of them have silent Ks.
I know. I know. It's really funny.
And that is such a Mike Schur thing. Have you watched The Good Place?
Yes, I love The Good Place. That's so funny.
His writing on there is just as spectacular.
I know. He has a new show coming out too. I just saw an ad on Facebook. I didn't actually click on the ad, so I don't know what it is. But there's a new show.
Well, I'll have to go look it up.
My husband and I say the "I love you" and "I like you" that Ben and Leslie say to each other. We say that to each other. So, very important, ladies and gentlemen, who are listening. You can always love your spouse, but you don't always have to like them. Right.
Oh, I don't know how many times I've told Matthew, "I love you, but I hate your face right now." I hate your face.
So we do the "I love you" and "I like you," and I think Ben and Leslie are probably one of my all-time favorite TV couples.
Couples?
I love how they fell in love with each other like you could tell
gradually over time.
Yeah, but you could tell from the beginning that they both were interested in each other, but they didn't, like, their jobs were in conflict.
Right.
And for Leslie, for a character like Leslie, you can't be in a relationship with somebody that's in such conflict with your job. But they're so perfect for each other. And I really love that her message to him was, my favorite thing was every time I got to kiss your face. Like, I love that.
Yes.
She talks a lot about getting to kiss people and it not be cheating because she's doing her job.
Near the end, we learn about moon hunting with the boys.
I love the chapter on her boys. I love
Dr.
that she calls them
Jane
delicious.
Artisan, the Haiti boy, where I was sobbing like a bitch baby because that child.
Yeah.
And then this quote, page 312. A person's tragedy does not make their entire life.
100%.
As two people that has had trauma, we can agree. I might say something controversial. I hated that the last chapter was live.
Oh, I hated
that.
I like that. And then I actually went to YouTube to see if there were videos.
I do. I have a link for it because there's a small one from the publisher.
Yes, they didn't include
that shit.
You can't see the entire live recording, but the publisher did put out a segment of it.
I'll put the link in notes.
I thought it was funny because she's doing it at the theater that the Upright Citizens Brigade owns. I mean, there are things about her that I didn't know at all from this. Like, I had never even heard of the Upright Citizens Brigade. And it turns out that Amy Poehler runs one of the most successful comedy schools in the country. Yeah,
which I think
which is crazy.
COVID, I think during COVID it closed permanently.
Like, permanently?
I think so. I'll double check the facts and put it in the notes. We'll have to double check
that. Cause,
I'm pretty sure they had to close.
Well, that's a bummer. But I think it's interesting that one of the people in the Upright Citizens Brigade, used to be her boyfriend, and they're still working together.
I mean, it just shows professionalism.
Like, I do not have a single ex that I would ever want to work with again. I
have a few I really like.
Or see the face of.
In the very end, yes. Sharda saves the day.
Sharita.
I'm so sorry. Sharita saves the day. Amy loses her laptop.
Yeah.
The laptop that this whole book is on.
But the book is, well, not all of it, but a lot of it that hadn't been backed up to the cloud yet.
And she's panicking.
This is Sharita. For any of you watching on YouTube, there's a picture of her in here.
She is panicking. And Sharita finds it and just sends her an email. Like she's everybody else. And little does she know she saves this whole thing. What a sweet way to end this book.
Yeah, she says every book has an angel, and this book's angel is Sharita. So I love that. But I actually really liked the last chapter being live. I thought it was really fun to hear the reactions of people.
Nope.
I don't know.
Nope.
You know what you just completely glanced over and didn't talk about at all? I know we're over time, but you didn't really talk about the chapter that Seth Meyers pops in the booth with her.
I really liked that chapter.
Yeah. So Seth Meyers comes in to talk about what happened at SNL while Amy was giving birth, because she went into labor like a few hours before the show was going on.
And I couldn't find. I was looking for the. I'm sorry.
It's like we've never done this before.
A week and a half and we're fucking out of our minds. I tried finding the clip
where he touches I couldn't find it either.
And I couldn't find it. So if you find it, tag us.
Yeah. But I like that that he had two other instances where he could have like actually met Amy, where he was in the audience of Amy's shows.
Yes.
And he didn't actually get to meet her until they were on SNL together.
Right.
And then
he was at he has a picture from Upright Citizen Brigade when she was there, right?
Yes. He was at the audience, but he never actually met her.
Right.
But I really like their friendship. I think it's really cool.
She's been on his show several times, and you can see how natural and comfortable they are with each other.
I also want to talk about how she talks about the pudding winning an award. Now, she does have an Emmy now because she and Tina Fey won for the hosting the Golden Globes.
Yes.
But it is really a tragedy in the Emmys history that she never won as Leslie Knope. Yes. She was nominated so many times and she never won. And it hurts me that she didn't win for that, just because I love her character so much and because I really feel like she created someone who is relatable. And the chapter with Mike Schur, he talks about how they wanted Leslie to be someone that took herself so seriously, and then Amy improvised a line in which the beer bottles fell off this table, and she says something about, look at those bitches cleaning up after me, talking about the men. And like Mike Schur was like, at that moment, we realized what Leslie Knope actually was. And I will say that was that season, the end of that season, because it's season 2, that's when Chris Traeger and Ben Wyatt joined the show.
Yes.
And that's when really the show hit its niche. Yeah. The first season of the show is not great. I mean, I like it because I love who Leslie Knope is, and she is so me. She's so me. But but I really liked hearing that the character evolved because of who Amy made her.
I did forget to show something, and I really want to show this. When Amy gave birth to Archie, she got a letter from Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Hillary Clinton.
It reads, politics aside, Archie, dear Archie, happy birthday. I know your arrival brings great joy to your parents and your entire family. I'm pleased to join with them in welcoming you to New York and our nation. Best wishes for a lifelong that includes lasting friendships, boundless curiosities, and loving in a future that is shining and bright. And in asterisks at the bottom, in her own handwriting, she writes, she signs it, Hillary Rodham Clinton, and then she goes, otherwise known, your mother's double.
Double. Yes. I love that so because she played her for so long. And I just think that's so funny.
So funny.
Yeah.
That was really funny. I found it funny. And like, I just imagine the life these boys are going to have. Like, their dad does the voice of Lego Batman. Their mom is like the fate. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's wild. And
I think she's, I mean, I don't know if she's really a good mom, but the way she talks about her boys in the book, she's a good mom.
Right.
I can't really judge her parenting because I'm not a part of it. And what you put forward is maybe not who you are, but I can't imagine just listening to like interviews with her and stuff that she's not that kind of mom.
Right. I mean, parenting's hard. It doesn't matter if you are living off of paycheck to paycheck or if you're a multimillionaire.
Right. And she talks about how every mom needs a wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like that. I feel like and that chapter is more about having a support system. Let's not lie.
Right.
We I mean, I'm not going to get into details because
my kind of thought of it was you wouldn't every mother doesn't need a wife if you have a partner who is also able to do it, which they were both working full time. And so they didn't have that. But like my husband can fill that role because he's not working full time. So he's a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah, well, I was going to say a support system is important. I won't get into details. I text you and Katie this week. And I text my other mom friends that are here local about a situation I've been dealing with one of my children. And it's been weighing a lot on my heart, and I've been struggling a lot with it, and you know this.
Yeah.
And talking to you all helps. It's nice to be able to turn around 100%. And look and see that somebody is there holding your hand, even if it's metaphorically. And I think that's the point of that.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So overall, I love this book.
Sorry. The haiku for Tina, or what is it called when you write
acrostic.
The acrostic. 20 years ago we met because became instant friends. A relationship is the same as Lord. I don't know. Like Lord, we think of ourselves as Madonna's daughters. And on it goes. Comedy, she calls Tina in this book her comedy wife.
Mm-hmm.
Which I loved. So, but that's it for Yes Please.
I think that's it for Yes Please. Even though I still feel weird about us judging.
I do too. And Tina,
Amy Poehler, if you find your way to listening to this podcast,
I'm going to keep calling you Tina, and I apologize.
If you find your way to listening to this podcast, and you were like, "Who really are these bitches to be judging me?
And who the fuck do they think they are?"
We're totally fine with that, but could you also tell other people that we did this podcast so that they will listen to it too? Because we don't care if you hate it. Just give us streams.
I mean, I kind of care because I'd like you to mentor me a little bit on writing because it'd be great because I have an idea for a TV show. I won't drop a script in your lap like most assholes, but...
And because I'm obsessed with Leslie Knope and literally have a Hope with Knope poster hanging up in my office, I mean, I would really like to meet you.
Anyways, next week on Book Besties, The Poet X.
We're going to read The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I will be hosting. This is a book in verse, so it's a quick read.
Ma'am, it is.
If you listen to the audiobook, it's only about 3.5-ish hours. And it's narrated by Elizabeth Acevedo. So that's what we got next week.
Which is gorgeous.
Yes. And gorgeous. We will be rounding out the month with The Martian.
I love that flapping book so much.
I'm in the middle of it right now. And our final book this month is Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon. And this is a new book this year. It came out in 2021.
I'm looking forward to reading it.
Me too. I haven't started it yet, but I love all of her other books. And this will be the first time our podcast is doing a book that came out this year.
The same year we did.
Yeah.
And next week, our 20th episode.
Are we at 20 already?
Next week. Today is 19.
Oh, happy anniversary. All right, we gotta go, Molly. We're like way over.
Till next time, besties.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Book Besties. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The views discussed here are those of Molly and April and not those of anyone else. Today's book was Yes Please by Amy Poehler. Your book besties are Molly Biggs and April Watkins. Editing by Thomas Watkins. Music is Sleep Sweetly by Brigida. Don't forget to follow Book Besties on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. If you'd like to contact the Book Besties, please email us at bookbestiespod@gmail.com.